Hello, everybody. I am Clifton Slay with Hoplite Venture Trek and contributing to Gone Jeepin'. We're back here. We got Pat Gremillion. We're going to talk about welding today and all his tips and tricks and some history. It's going to be great. Today we are with Pat Gremillion. He is the originator of the Premier Power Welder. And so we are coming out to talk to Pat about many aspects, history, but also just some like tips and tricks and just sort of the mechanics of it. So welcome, Pat. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, and we're out here. It's chilly out here in Moab today, so we'll see how far we get. But Pat, I guess to start off with, I know that your history is as a welder, and I know you have a vast history. And what inspired you to create like we need a portable welder that I can sell to off-roaders or to people in the field or something like that? Like, how did that all happen?
Okay, I was at a Mickey Thompson show with the football, and there was a guy named Harry Robinson there with similar unit. And of course, I laughed at it. Told me it was a welder, and I went, right. You know, I mean, I'm a welder.
And you laughed at it because it was
an alternator, and he was trying to tell me that this was capable of handling a low hydrogen rod and different things, you know, and it was a high freak, and I went, bullshit. I got to call bullshit on it. And so anyway, I ended up buying two that day.
Yeah. Well, now why did you buy one? Because you thought it was not good, but you thought,
Well,
I'm gonna try it out.
I'm
okay.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I lost you. You know, he said, okay, let's go outside. So we went outside and I welded the damn thing. And
did it weld good?
Yeah, it did. It was amazing. Max and I were out there and we put it through its paces.
Now, was it because the Premier is an arc welder? Was this a wire feed
No,
or was
it the same? Just okay. There was a guy in Texas that had something similar to this, and Harry was selling his stuff. You know.
I got it.
Excuse me. And so it was an arc welder, and you know, like I said, I was impressed with it. I liked it, and then a few years later, I said, okay, I'll buy it. I bought everything. So we started.
Now by saying buy everything, you're like, I want the design and
I want the design,
the entire thing
from there, and then we opened it up. Nobody had ever really gone to the four-wheelers per se, and I loved four-wheeling, and I saw a market there, and that's when I started. You know, like we'd go to the Pritchard, you know, we'd sit at the rock pile, just wait for them to break.
Right.
And then, you know, back then it was on 35s.
Sure.
You know, and they broke. And I'd weld them and showed a welder, and next thing you know, we started touring. We toured the country. I was gone basically 2.5 weeks out of every month somewhere. You know, Las Cruces, South Dakota, you know, Arkansas.
So you decided to buy everything, and then he's not selling anymore, and
he went to work for me.
Okay, and then you got the original product, and what is different? Because it's probably something's evolved from that time, I'm sure. So what's changed?
We put better electronics in it. I'll have to show you when we get into it. In other words, some of the stuff that they were using wasn't the best quality. And yes, it was breaking, you know. In other words, it wasn't holding up. And some of the people that we met weren't too happy with it. So I have a friend of mine who's an engineer, and we talked about it. And Pat was working for NASA at the time. And so he sat down and we redesigned the box.
So is it the configuration that it's in now? Is it? I mean, as I look at it, is it close to that? Is there
smaller?
Yeah.
More compact, better parts. You know? And the alternators are better. You know, we started using bigger bearings. We started line boring all the cases so we could put bigger bearings in there so they would hold up, because we're using a smaller pulley and it puts a lot of load on the bearing, front bearing.
I see.
And they were burning. I mean, you know, we just had to redesign it. The concept was great. The thing works. It works exceptionally well.
Well, I can remember when I got my first Premier Power Welder, it just ended up being a staple. Like all my vehicles had to have them. And I think when I originally got it, you know, we were running CJ frames and things like that. So the stock frames were always a problem.
Yeah.
And also the fact that we were welding to these frames. And sometimes what we were welding to them was more substantial than the actual frame. So we were welding a lot, just not on ours, but a lot of other vehicles.
Well, that was the whole principle. You know, I mean, again, we were out there, and back then you broke your axles, you broke your U-joints, you broke your drive line. I mean, you know, 35-inch tire trying to do the hammers. You know, getting up to the mailbox was a trip. You know, that's how we started the 24-hour hammers, because nobody knew how many you could do. You know, it was to do more than 2 a day was, boy, you were a bad dude.
You got it. You tried it out. You thought it would not work, but it did work. You fixed the components. Looked at upgrading the alternators, and then at what point you're like, this would be a good business? Because the off-road community, or what community needed this as a product?
Well, I was thinking the farmers at one time, going out to the farms and showing them, you know, and we did do some farm shows. We'd up to Larry and a couple of things like that. And then I went out, you know, we went wheeling, and I built the Bronco, and one thing led to another. It actually showed me where to sell it to people that were buying.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, I mean, it took a while. A lot of people didn't believe in it. And what you try to explain to somebody is, it's a 1/4-inch drill. It's not a 1-inch drill, not a 1/2-inch drill, it's not a 1-ton truck.
Yeah.
It'll do the job. Can you break it? You can break any damn thing. Now, be smart as the tool is, it'll do a fantastic job, and it has. And then, see, we have you have 115 volts, 20 amp, DC power. Well, that's any brush-driven tool. Those blenders for margaritas. I mean,
I hear that a lot, actually, the margarita thing. I hadn't ever do that, but yep.
They work. Hair dryers for your wife, man. I mean, you know, it's amazing. But they're AC/DC tools, and so they all work.
So have you found, Pat, that with modern vehicles, because I know that you and I's relationship with using them, I always had Jeeps and buggies and really modified trucks, but they were primarily using, you know, different drivetrains, but we weren't really using them on OEM production vehicles necessarily. Have you found that they are still a good fit for that as well?
They are, and I have to qualify it by saying, when I had it, it was fun. If you wanted to hook up the throttle, all we did was went to the throttle.
For sure.
And you could use it.
Yeah.
Then they came in with the drive-by wires. And I always told my wife, when it's not fun anymore.
That's right. That's right.
And so then you had to go to Bully Dog. You had to go to different guys that made the drive-by modules, AEV, and then people would call you, you know, and say, it's not working. And I said, well, it's not my modules, you know, don't.
Sure.
So it just got to be a headache, and we weren't having any fun with it. And I had another business going, and actually that picked up.
Well, Greg is the new caretaker of the business, and I know him a little bit from Ultra Venture and that kind of thing.
I couldn't have picked a better person to buy my company. He stepped in. He's got, I think, 3 boys, and the family. Greg was building my alternator for me, Ace alternator. He was building some of the alternators that had, you know, and it's all worked out.
Pat, that was a great history. Thank you for sharing that. But I think now it's time that we go and show this field tool really working, and then we'll go over some of the tips and tricks things as well. But we'll head down here and do some welding. All right, Pat, let's get the equipment up here. We're going to simulate that we had a breakdown here and really kind of showcase what the welder can do as far as grinder, welding, anything else Pat's got for us. All right, Pat, so we've gotten the equipment out, and we've got a grinder, gloves, we've got a good hood here. The rod is really what I want to talk about, because I have used this tool a lot. And I primarily have used nickel rod because it feels like I can just weld anything with nickel rod, especially cast, which is one of those big breaks that happens out here that if you don't have nickel rod, you can't get the cast together and it's catastrophic. But could you really kind of get into what you would use and why?
Okay. I'm gonna tell anybody, don't chintz on the rod. Get a good rod. The rod, I'm not gonna say that your rod is bad. This is an Excalibur.
That's right.
332 8018. That's 80,000 tensile strength. First pass, 80,000 tensile strength. Any break you have on it, there isn't anything on here steel that you cannot weld. Now you can carry an aluminum rod for the cap in the steering box. You know, we repaired a lot of stuff.
Well, Pat, I'm sorry to can I circle back?
Yeah.
So the 80,000 tensile strength. Yeah. Does that mean that the 80,000 is within the weld, or it's the thing that's connecting has that strength, or both?
This is 80,000. I'm welding a cast knuckle or your housing or anything on here. I'm welding with 80,000, not a 60,000 rod, not a 70,000 rod, an 80,000 tensile strength rod. This rod is pliable. When I say pliable, it's not brittle. It has some elasticity to it, and you cannot get any better than this.
Okay.
Absolutely cannot.
So if I got it, so somebody, he said chintz, so like cheap on the rod, and they got something else, would that mean that the weld wouldn't stick as well, or would come apart or something like that?
No. All right. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that you're putting the best material you can get in whatever you're welding. You can weld a thing with, I have some 6013, and the old farmers go, hell boy, I can weld through cow shit with that. Yeah, you can, okay? And they get their shit home and it works.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that this rod, when you learn how, all right, take a lead pencil and you're doing your penmanship. The smaller the lead, the finer, you know, you think you can, you know, it looks better, right, than a big old.
You have not seen my handwriting clearly, Pat. That's okay. I'm trying to follow you.
This small rod, it's just like you can just direct it where you want to go. It's not a. There's nothing on here that requires an 1/8 inch rod. You can just direct this rod, and it's got a smaller puddle, and you can just flow it in there, and you can see it. You don't have to carry a lot of heat because there isn't anything on here that you need a lot of heat in. And this is a low hydrogen rod. Once you learn how to do this, and I'm going to show you how a lot of people don't like this rod, because once you strike the arc, the metal will burn back in a little bit.
Okay.
Well, the trick is you take a little rock and you hit it and you knock the flux off.
I got it.
The steel is showing again.
Right.
It strikes right up again. You follow me? I mean, there's little tricks. I'm not saying 6013 won't work. It's a pipe rod. We call it an all-purpose rod. But when I weld, generally when I'm welding on somebody, and the way that I tell them, you get comfortable and you make that like you're going to do it in your house. In other words, you want this to be a permanent weld. It doesn't have to be. When you get it home, you can cut it out and redo it. But
Well, in relation to that, is this a fix? Like I use this, and I'm asking. I've actually used. I've used this a lot, and you and I have both experienced this where we've told people we're gonna trail fix this, but as soon as you get back to Moab or wherever you're going, you need to swap out this part. And then 7 years later, they show up and say, "Hey, remember you fixed me on white knuckle or something like that? And check it out, your Craftsman wrench and everything's still sitting there." So it's been amazing because I've considered it a trail fix, but a lot of times people have just, gone ahead and used it against my suggestion.
Yeah, but then again, that goes back to you're welding it with the best that you can fix it with, the best rod. How would you say, you can weld it cheaply or you can weld it to be fixed. And generally, I can get anybody off the trail. And like you said, I've had guys, like come back to them and going, there it is, still there.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, so Pat, beyond this is this a do it everything?
it's
Not aluminum, of course, but
this rod will weld that knuckle. It'll weld the housing. It'll weld your shock tower. There isn't anything you can't do with this rod.
So as far as prep, I know a lot of times on the trail, it's really hard for us to do like what I would call like a shop prep on there, and we'll grind it and get the mill scale off or do the best we can. Mm-hmm. But I've had really good luck with it, kind of just punching through all the debris. What's the best way to prep if you could do it just the way you would like to?
It's always good to clean it. There's a lot on this that you can't clean. Mm-hmm. You can't get a grinder in some of these areas. The oil is always there and stuff. This rod. Now, when you start with this rod, what I say is it's called a root pass. You just make a small pass. Sorry, a smaller pass. What we're doing there is we're preheating the metal.
I see.
And that's burning off the crap. And now you take it and you wire brush that. Now you come back and you put a final weld on there.
So a root down, in the base, and then come back over it.
Come back over it.
Okay.
But the root pass is what we call a preheat pass, because you don't have a torch and you've got a cold piece of steel here with oil, a heat sink, that just sucks the hell out of the heat.
Sure.
So you make that one little pass and carry the heat. You just make your pass. Then you come back and you clean it as best you can, wire brush it, knock the flux out and so forth. And then you come in and you turn this thing up a little bit, and I'll show you. And it's just beautiful.
Oh, I know it's beautiful. I've seen it. Yeah. But I also would like to ask you about, so I know there's I've used some wire feed, like some suitcase welders that use like flux core. And I have to admit, I'm not an expert about all of that other than I've been using them, but I've always had the most luck with this. Tell me what would be the difference between using a wire fed flux core versus this?
A wire fed, even a flux core, if you check the stats, first pass is only 70% of the tensile strength of the wire. In other words, they say it's 70,000 tensile strength. They're just telling you, yes, it is a 70,000, but the first pass on that coal, sucking the heat away, it's 30% different.
Okay, I did not know that.
Oh yeah, I know. They don't tell you all that. And you can't go wrong welding anything on here. MIG doesn't carry the heat that this does. I don't care if it's flux core. You're still welding with the batteries. You're not going to carry the heat to do good penetration. I'll argue with anybody about that. I'll do coupons with anybody. And you aren't going to beat this rod. Learn to weld with this rod and you will come home every damn time.
Yeah, well, we have. We have. So let's talk about limitations. What are the limitations? Like, is there some metal that's just too thin for this, or too thick? Is there a magic area?
You're gonna find yourself in a situation when you're welding on stuff like this where you can't reach it. You can't really see it. You can't. It's gonna be trying thinner stuff. I'm gonna show you how to weld thinner stuff. We're gonna take the flux off of one of these rods. It's called double sticking, and we're gonna take this rod when we're welding, and we're gonna use this as a filler. And you're just gonna do this and this. And believe me, it welds. And then if you wanted to put a pass over the top of that, you could, but generally you won't have to. Not on thinner stuff. Shock towers, they're so damn, what are they, 1/8 inch? If that,
I don't think if they're
it's all fixable. It's just take it home and practice with it, boys.
For sure.
Yeah, it works.
And I realize we don't have 1 inch on these vehicles like that stuff, but even with thicker stuff, say a half.
Okay.
A 3/8 or something, still good?
Oh yeah. Say that knuckle broke. Right on yours or anywhere. You want to put a bevel in there. You don't want to just butt it up.
So
you want to put a little bevel in it. You don't have to do a full pin but you want to put a good bevel on it and clean it. And then passes. Don't try to fill it up in one pass. Make a pass, a good pass, clean it, make a pass. That's what they call closing yourself out. When you make a pass on this side, you want to leave enough material here where when you make this pass, it ties back into the half of this pass. In other words, you just want to build this all up. You can do 1 inch with this. You don't need 1/8 inch rod. It's time. Take your time, do it right.
And in between, so when we're doing the thick material and we're building and bridging and really that wasn't your terminology, but is there a time like I need to do it like right after another just to keep the heat into the metal?
Take your hand.
Okay.
Put it over it. If you can't count to 5, put your hand right by it. It's too damn hot.
Okay.
You're destroying the integrity of the steel. You know, you got it too damn hot. Just take your glove off. Put your hand like on here. Just put your hand right here. And if you can't count to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 without that, you're just going, whoa, it's too hot.
Okay.
Give yourself a minute. Get a glass of water. Do something.
Is there too cold?
No.
Okay.
It won't. No, it won't get too cold. No.
So I can come back tomorrow?
Well, yeah, if you come back tomorrow, same thing. I mean,
I was kidding you, Pat.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah.
Might be a long drink of water. All right, well, Pat, let's do it. Let's start actually putting some stuff together.
Yeah.
So, Pat, looks like we're all hooked up and everything here, and I know how to run the welder, but let's just go through some of the basics.
Master switch. When it's running, turn it on. Turn the master switch on. What it does is it takes the alternator out of the alternator mode and turns it into a motor, a welder. All right, it's not charging into your battery. You're trickle charging into all your electronics from your battery. You generally have, say, 2.5 hours, 3 hours that you could play with this thing without even worrying about charge. And then on the power tool, you have a power tool switch right here. You turn the power tool on, and you can pick your grinder up, grind, do whatever you're doing, drill, whatever. Come back, turn it off. Weld, idle it down, turn it off. That's it. Now,
all right.
Another thing that I didn't tell you is why I like this 332 rod. Is this 332 rod is going to put you in the same heat range when in other words, you're welding at, say, 50 volts here. It's also the same you need for 110. You won't have to be revving it up to be at 110.
And you mean 110 by the power tool.
Power tool.
Yeah.
If you were welding with 1/8 rod, you're going to be welding up around 70. And then you're going to have to idle it down because you're going to have like 130 volts, you know. It's going to kick the shit out of it.
So this way we don't have to remember anything. We just set it. We can use the power tool, switch back and forth.
You flip the switch, you grind, flip the switch off, you weld again, you leave it at the same RPM.
Yeah, that's great because it's more seamless.
Yeah.
Because I probably, in the heat of it, would probably have to focus on that and get it wrong or something like that.
Well, generally, you're having some guy go, I need a little more heat.
Yeah.
You just got to rev it up. I need a little less heat, you know, you got to play with it here. And I needed the 150. I don't have enough to run the grinder, you know. But this rod puts you right in the Hummer, right there.
Well, it sounds like you've seen this before because when I'm out there welding, it's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going more, less, just based on how the weld is laying down.
How much heat you need? I mean, the bigger the steel you broke, you're going to need a little more heat. You know, the thinner stuff, you're going to need a little. But I'm going to show you how to use that double stick where you pretty much stay at heat, you know, and just weld it up.
But to circle back, if I were to look at the gauge and I would set it up around 70 amps is magic?
Yeah, about 50, 60, yeah, 70.
Okay, that's a range.
Well,
that's right. Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. But in general, like you can keep it the same. If it's working for your power tool, it'll work for this rod.
Pretty much will work.
Okay.
Right there, yeah.
All right. Understood.
Now, this is a general heat range. This is not dead on for, you know, like you say, okay, I want 60. Well, that doesn't mean 60 on hydrogen rod. It might mean 60 on this 6013 rod, but it'll get you in the ballpark.
Okay.
Now you play with the heat range.
I know that this rod will push right through mill scale and rust and everything else we got going on here, but I'd still like to just for the video, I'd really like to just go ahead and use the grinder. We've got it out and just show it using or show it working. And so we need to turn the rig on, correct? And then we turn into the power tool switch.
We put the master switch on, power tool on, boom.
Okay.
Always idle it down before you turn it off because it's all loaded up with a lot of voltage. It could take a regulator out when you dump it, what we call a dump. When you high revved, you know, all that voltage is in that regulator and stuff, and you dump it, you could take a regulator out.
Okay, and let me just make sure I understood what you said, Pat. So we're gonna start this up, but it's gonna rev high, and then we're gonna let it idle down, and then we're gonna set it into the range we want?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, it came up to 50. It's just at a little idle. What I'm gonna do is take this. Go ahead.
That's the spot?
Yeah.
Here's what we're gonna weld together. This is typical, like 8. And if I could do a beautiful weld, I'd have this valley right here. So I'm probably gonna butt them together.
Yeah, that's fine. You still have the valley. You just set the radius.
So I'm just gonna grind these edges, make it nice.
We're ready to weld now. I turned off the power tool. Now the meter came down. It's ready to weld.
We're gonna come in here and you're gonna
Yeah.
do a root weld like that, and then are you gonna come back and do sort of a bridge?
Yeah, we'll see. You see?
Something like that?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Low hydrogen. You don't just boom, right? Because it will stick. You kind of strike it like a match. Got it?
Yep, I'm ready.
Don't run away from it. See, that's really hot. I'm actually touching that steel with this rod. Now, low hydrogen, you see how it's burned back in there?
Yeah.
You just tap the rod. I tapped it a little hard, but I mean, you know, just or when it cools down, take your glove and it'll break off.
Right.
Done. Now, see, so we close that, right?
Yeah.
We close that. You know you just burned it in, right? Now, don't run away from the well. Stay there. I could have went a little wider and it would look a little bit better, but
Sure.
that's basically it. Now, I want you to get one of them 6013s and see how much difference it
Okay.
is in light. It's one of them.
I have my glasses on, Pat. I can't see the difference between the rods.
Yeah, it's the same difference. No.
Well, we are going to try a different kind of rod, and Pat's going to explain to me why.
Well, this rod, everybody loves this rod that don't know how to weld. Watch how easy it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what Pat is saying is this is a really easy rod to weld with. Now, why wouldn't I just use this one instead of the other one?
It's a brittle rod. It's a good rod. It's okay. Yeah. It does fine. It's a more brittle, and it's only 60,000.
Oh, I see. 60,000 versus 80,000 that we were using before.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuck it.
Get it off. Scratch it. All right, you see how much it's down, short arc.
You can tell if I'm going too fast.
All right, now, this rod don't know what the hell you want it to do.
Yeah.
You got to tell it, I want it over here, I want you over here, or I want it, you got to watch your puddle. See, right now, you didn't connect. You see, now you got what they call slag inclusion down here. That's why this little point comes in real well. But see, you got to get that slag out of there. Now that we got this will burn through there again. Yeah.
Okay.
Slow down. Make sure you got a puddle there. Slow down, you're jumping too far. Just stay there. Don't run away from it. Okay, all right, now, it's only gonna put shit where you tell it to put shit. It'll burn it, but it won't put it where you need it.
I see.
You gotta tell this what the hell you want to do.
All right, so Pat showed us, you can use a grinder, use tools. Obviously a welder, that's the best attribute. But Pat's gonna show us something I actually didn't even know. He's actually gonna show us how to cut shapes or form steel with the rod. So tell us about that, Pat.
Oh.
So sorry.
Okay.
I didn't set that up well.
You're in the field,
Sorry.
and you have a piece of steel that you need shaped to go around, say, an axle.
Yeah.
Or you need a piece of steel to fix your swing out on your tie carrier. You can cut it with the stinger.
Okay.
And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut this piece of steel right down the center of it.
Okay.
And you can cut it any way you want. And then if you have your grinder, you just clean it up, put it on there, and you're done.
Now is this is the lower tensile strength?
60-13.
Okay, so this is preferred. Why?
Oh, it burns hotter than hell, low RPMs, and it cuts.
Okay.
The low hydrogen won't cut a steel like this.
So if I wanted
you could do it, but this watch. You'll see.
So having some very broad end sounds like.
Yeah,
There
and
you go.
you don't need a lot of rod. I mean, you get one of those blue things and put 30% low hydrogen and 50 or whatever. All you take is maybe 5-6 sticks and you're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Very seldom you ever burn a lot of rod. Other than when you weld on payway, you always use a lot of rod.
That's right. Well, show me this.
All right. Ready? Just got to get your hand-eye coordination together.
All right, Pat, we're good. All right, let's see this thing. Wow, that's pretty good.
See that when you finally get it together, the heat and the pushing and everything, you get it sync, it'll just.
Now, are you kind of sawing with it, sort of, or? Is it just
I'm
a
trying to
straight
find. Yeah, you're heating it and blowing it, but if you get it, once you get the, how'd you say, the sync right, where the heat and it's melting and you get it at the right angle, it just cuts right down. You want it hot enough to burn, and stay lit. You don't want it sticking, you know what I mean? And you want it a little hotter than the normal weld.
Okay.
And then that's what you can do. I can cut you a circle, I can cut you a hole, I can cut anything you can draw.
All right.
And then you can see once it's brought to, look on the back of this, look down there, there's not a lot of slag in the back. I don't know if you can see that. In other words, it'll grind pretty easy. It's not like big globs and shit.
Yeah. No, it's nice.
Yeah. And that's it. That's all there is to that.
Well, that's great, Pat. What am I forgetting? I mean, we've seen that you use a power tool. We can weld different rods. We can cut. Is there something else I'm missing about this tool?
No,
That's a lot.
main thing. If you're gonna weld on you, get comfortable. Don't get all jacked up where you're on one side of your leg and you can't. Get comfortable and practice, buddy.
Yeah.
Like the old man said, take it home and practice.
Well, I've been practicing with premier power welders for a couple, I don't know how long, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And I'm still can't quite weld it like that.
Well, yeah, but I've been welding to 9.
Yeah. That's all right. I'll probably never reach your level, but that's okay.
Oh, girls will out-weld a guy any day long. I'll hire a girl before I hire a guy. You get a lady with 2 kids wanting a job, the reason why, they listen and they don't think that they know everything.
Did you watch me weld back there? I was not listening, so I started to listen though. I got good at the end.
What?
That's it. I was just separating these
Yeah.
wires. Do you want this stubby in here?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Is that a Premier Power Welder? I've always wanted to see one of these.
Hey Tim,
How's it going?
why are you out here all by your lonesome?
Oh, it's a long story.
You know Pat?
No, I don't.
Oh, sorry.
Tim, and he's been on some real adventures and stuff with us. So I'm telling you, we actually did not set this up. Tim, that's been on an adventure with us, just randomly showed up, wanted to meet Pat, and he's requested that he do his signature in a weld on his bumper. So we're gonna check that out.
All right, he got a virgin. It's the first time I've ever done that.
I appreciate it.
Oh,
It's great
shit.
to meet you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, please.